Not every bug deserves an autonomous fix. In this demo, one prompt sets up complete scan and fix pipeline, then teaches the agent which findings to fix on its own, which to flag for a human, and which to leave alone entirely. Teaching agents when not to act. Agentic DevOps with Snowflake CoCo. Let's get started. I'm going to use a little prompt saying scaffold DevOps with GitHub. I'm just going to do the GitOps with GitHub. You can also do it with GitLab as well. Let's get started, kick it off. It's going to use the scaffold skill of the DevOps CoCo-agents plugin that I've been developing of late. And then there's a manifest stuff. I'm just going to allow all commands in the session. This is more of a convenience, but I don't recommend this. This is just for the demo sake. So what this manifest is all about, I'll talk about the manifest a little later at the end of the session. So what it does and what's used and all of the stuff. So now it basically checks for a few tools like Git, Python, GHCLI. If I'm going to use a GitLab workflow, then it was checked for GitLab CLI, then GitHub CLI, which means that everything is good. And also does a bunch of discovery. Obviously, like any other Snowflaker, I have three different GitHub accounts that I need to manage every day. So I'm having personal stuff, and then SFCGH, and then the Snow one, right? So for this one, I'm going to leave it to my personal one. That's what is I'm going to use. And then there are a bunch of setup modes that you can use. There's one, it's a quick start. I don't need to do anything else. Just set this up using a template, and I'll manage it myself. More of an nerd kind of a thing. Another one is a full setup. So I'm setting it for a greenfield project. I want to set up everything from start. I want to understand like what it does, and with a little smoke test to say that my workflows are working. That's the second part. Obviously, I'm going to choose the second part now. And lastly, it's either it's going to be a greenfield project, completely new, or I have an existing project where I'm going to add this agentic DevOps stuff into it. So for this demo, I'm just going to keep it for a new repo from a template, and then click submit. It's a bunch of questions that I need to answer, gather all these questions, and then let's see what Coco has to do now. So what I'm going to do, the next piece is like the run mode. Again, like the other setup mode, this run mode is also a couple of modes possible. One is the guided one, which gives a more of a pedagogical workflow explaining each and every step, why we do this, why we disable actions, why we enable actions, what is a template, why are we doing this workflow, etc., etc. So which is more of a, I call a newbie thing. And a standard is more of a nerd thing. Like I'm used to GitHub workflows. I know what's being done, so let me go with that. So that's other one. That's what you're going to do right now. Go into the standard mode, and obviously the prefix one here is something more of a convenience. I think I'm coming from a DevRel side of things, like where we share the same account and we create all these things again and again for a demo purpose, destroy, create, and all these stuff, right? So just to be safe, I don't step in other shoes. I basically prefix all my objects with my username. And some companies or organizations, they do have prefixing their objects as well, right? So this is more of a convenience on that pattern. I'm just using Snowflake username here, using my account ID and here, and then finally, like there's a new repo, obviously generates a new repo name. Obviously, I can change the repo name as well. If you don't want to use eager relay or something like that, just a nice fancy pet name thing that I added to the skill. So if you don't want it, I want a specific name, I can also give that. All right, let's click submit again. So bunch of other information is gathered here so that like the skill can go ahead and do this stuff. I want to keep it private or public repo. I'll keep it private for now. I just going to hit now. And that's all. It gathered all the information that is required for it to create the bunch of stuff. First, the GitHub repository, and then a bunch of Snowflake stuff. We'll see that later. And then set things up for us for this agentic DevOps workflow. Let's wait for those things to complete. Obviously, you'll be wondering like what we basically do here is like it's using GitHub templates. Obviously, that's what I'm going to do right now. So the idea that I followed here is like instead of using GH template, it basically clones the repository into an empty one and then does a little bit of squashing of commits and all the other things so that like the template commits doesn't land in your project, right? That I find it much neater than just doing GitHub templates where your template commit history also comes into your project history, which is like unnecessary noise in your project. So, but please feel to change that if you will. But that's more of my little style that I followed in this one. And it also ensures that when we set the project up, the init repo comment, basically we also make sure that we disable that before we push the repo, so that like there's not an unnecessary action run which will technically fail because we don't have the other setup done yet, which is going to be followed by this step. So that's the reason why we disable the actions, and then later in the step, when you add a smoke test or something like that, you basically go back and enable it. So we'll see that later. But that's what we have right now. So we got the repo created, we have the action disabled, and then we have a manifest initialized. As I told you earlier, I'll talk about the manifest stuff. It's a very interesting thing that I added to the whole skill thing. And now, we have the bunch of Snowflake resources that we are going to create. What we'll do right now is like, let's go to my browser and then check for the repository. And there you see the repo here, the eager relay, and you see the actions is disabled, as you saw in our command from Coco, that Coco basically disabled the actions. And then we have the initial scaffolding of the repo done, right? Let's get back to Coco. And obviously, when I want to have a workflow, so we are going to follow the Snowflake's workload identity federation model here. So we're not going to key in any keys or pat or anything onto workflows. We are going to use OIDC workflow. Obviously, Snowflake CLI action sets this up for us. Like you can check on the repo, like how this workflow works. And I also have a video that on YouTube that shares about like workload identity federation. But that's what you're going to do right now. So I'm just going to create a role. We're restricting the access for the OIDC so that it doesn't go to anything big. Then we are going to have a warehouse specifically for this purpose and a user, the service user basically. And also like we're going to have a subject, which is pointing to a repository that we have on a main branch. Okay. We can check there's other patterns. You can check the OIDC reference for GitHub for all the stuff. So let's go ahead and hit proceed. So you're just going to execute 7 or 8 SQL statements right now. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Obviously, we might need to allow each one of them when they execute. There we go. So it's going to go ahead and switch the role and execute all of the stuff. I'm just going to give allow here. Obviously, it's going to run all the SQL statements together. I think so. And then like it verifies whether all the objects has been created, the role has been created, etc., the standard ones, to make sure that like our statement succeeded. Everything is perfect. So we are going to mark step 2 as complete and then move to the next step, basically pushing across GitHub secrets. Ideally, as I said earlier, we are going to use OIDC. So there is no passwords or key pairs or anything that are going to push in. These are going to be the additional information like a Snowflake account, Snowflake role, user, warehouse, etc., that is used basically. And also like we are going to have a permissions to create PRs, which will be done later as part of the whole workflow. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one. So Skills takes care of that using GH APIs behind the scenes. So just to give about the manifest while this done, the manifest idea of manifest is persisting each and every step that we do as part of the workflow. Obviously, you know that AI cannot remember a lot of stuff every time we need a given context. So whenever something goes wrong and we are cut out or it crashed, when we come back, it can read the manifest. The plugin can basically read the manifest to see where we are and then proceed from there and then do the stuff, right? It's more like of a convenience and then like a state management kind of stuff. I'll check out this whole manifest at the end of the demo. I'll show you what all things it's been written. So it's a very handy one. It's a very handy pattern that I've been advocating across using the IDD, intent-driven development principles as well. So we're all done. 4 secrets up, workflow permissions, actions can create PR right now. Coco max auto conservative. I think this is a little thing that I need to talk about, but not on this demo, but separately as well. And then we have actions re-enable and then the branch protection stuff. So just going back on Coco max auto stuff, this is one that basically drives when your Coco, the agent basically need to act. For example, when it's aggressive, like it go ahead and fixes everything up. That's your choice against like a policy document that you can have on your repository. I think I'll show that once at the end of the demo. And then by default, it's conservative, which means that anything lower when the model is not, your agent is not confident enough, or it just doesn't fall under the severity category or something like that, it basically asks for a human review. So that's what we're using right now as one of the principles to make AI act as we want, not blindly act on all the things like what most of the other generic AI agentic tools does in this way, right? I think, as I said earlier, so we're just going to do a little smoke test here to see like everything works well. And one of the things, like I just have two demo types just to make things quicker and faster. Doing a data engineering pipeline using Snowflake ETL. I think it's not a very complicated one, but we are going to use an intentionally induce bugs into it, make a course scan for the bugs, and raise the appropriate severity bugs with the proper labels and other stuff. You'll see these in a second. And there's a Streamlit app. And then you can also describe your own use case using a normal prompt to make things work. Okay. Or entirely skip smoke test. That's your choice. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this one. In a data engineering Snowpark ETL pipeline, I'm just going to submit this one. It's basically it's going to generate a small set of app, a couple of app, a demo.py, and then another PyProject.toml, and then push it back to your repository so that like everything is there. And then like it says like, generate and push, I think probably, and then let's go ahead and do this one. I think that's the commit where we already have enabled. So let's go back and check here and then see as part of the step 4, we have enabled the actions back. The actions is back in your which is enabled back repo, which means that you should see the actions. I'm just going to click on this and wait for something to kick here. At the same time, you can also see that those two files have changed, as I said earlier. One simple app.py and PyProject, since it's going to be a smoke test. I'm just going to keep it here and then do it. Obviously, the demo directory is excluded as part of the template git ignore. So that's the reason like why we have to force that. And then we push back. I think this whole loop right now, this step 4, will watch for your GitHub actions. You don't need to jump between windows as well, in case if you want to go back and check. But you'll also we'll do a little monkey jumping between your browser and this one, but ideally you don't need to do this. I think you see the scan is started here, and it's watching the scan, and it'll wait until the scan is completed, watching the logs, seeing what's happening, etc., etc. So we'll give some time for this. But one thing I need to highlight here is that this template workflow, I'll share those repositories along with this plugin repository alongside the video when I share the video as well, so we can just go use these ones. These are more internal ones available in Snowflake Labs. The thing what I've done here is also I'm using a beta feature called Cortex EXE, which I PR'd and merged last week. So it's basically allows Cortex to run in a CI/CD mode. You don't have the chat interface coming up kind of stuff. I think since it's in beta for now, like I have to use beta in the workflows. But once it moves to GA, then obviously I'll go back and update the template. So that's the idea of templates. Again, the power of templates is that I don't need to trust the skills. When something changes on the template, you can go back and update the templates. The organizations can have their own templates or fork the template and update it. So it gives a lot of flexibility as well there. So that's another idea of using template here. Somebody maybe you might be wondering, why can't I have everything inside the repo, inside the skill, right? Again, that bloats a skill in my opinion, personally. So I want to have a separation of concerns as well. So I think the repo stays separate and then this one stays separate, all right? So that's great. I think I think it's still running there. Like we'll give some time for this to run. Obviously, it'll take 2 to 3 minutes approximately for this to go run. I think there we go. I think it's much faster this time. The scan completed, like it found issues and triggered auto fix. Let's see what's happening here as well. Let's go here and then see what issues has been raised. I think there's 2 issues raised here. Obviously, the bug that has been raised here. I think both of them has been flagged as needs review. So that's what is happening here. So I think let's go back to the. So obviously the autofix was job was fixed because the scan did not identify any low severity issues on our generated code. That's precise reason why the autofix workflow did not kick in. But if we had something labeled as autofix, then obviously Coco would have done this. But to make things how it actually works, so this is what we do. Like we just go back and comment saying /Coco fix, or you can have any other patterns, but I like this pattern. It's a very standard / command pattern that we do in Git. Let's go back and see what's happening right now. I think we have commented in this issue, right? Yeah, there we go. And this should have triggered another action to be there. the bugs here that started here and then kind of doing this injection and other stuff. So these tools are running and they should see two PRs opened up for us soon, right? Let's wait for that to happen. Let's go back here. Ideally, we have fixed both the issues technically here. So it's kind of fixing, I think, on one and two both together. Ideally, to show how it basically works. I think the workflows are done, I guess. Let's go back here and see if we got the PRs created. There you go. We got the PRs created here, obviously, for these actions fixed by Coco, it's command injection and all of the stuff. All right. That's pretty much I have. Obviously, I think it's still waiting for the other second workflow to complete as well. I think there, let me verify the PRs. Obviously, this all these things are done by the watch loops. As I told earlier, we don't need to do the monkey jumping between a browser, actions flow, and other stuff. That makes sure everything is clean. Step 4 is complete. Let's also verify once more to go back to see if you have two PRs created. Obviously, we have two PRs here created by Coco itself. And since, as I told earlier, since we did not have anything that was identified as low severity or other stuff, we did not have the auto fix here. But if your code has something very low severity that Coco identifies as very low severity and high confidence, would have triggered an automatic action workflow here that basically fixes on auto fix, right? This is Coco agent issue. Nothing we have. I think this basically does the job for us to basically run automatic fix here. All right. I think that's pretty much I have. I think obviously the last part of this is to revert all the changes, the smoke testing that were done so that your repository is back to the clone states. I think I'm just going to do that and finish it off. And that's all we have. Now we're making Coco to be even more intelligent than what it is, to kind of giving it some guidance and other stuff to make it work in a real-time scenario. As I told earlier, let's go back and see what the files have been generated. One of the things I want to show you is basically the manifest. This is the manifest that we have that basically, let me also make it a little bigger and show this. I think this has a lot of other stuff. It's ideally machine managed by Codex Core. That's what it means to hand edit it. Like it has captures all the information, your conversation that you did on the chat, most of the manifest format. This is very important because whenever you want to clear off, like it has a SQL guard that strictly checks only, it has to delete only the ones that's created here. And then each step is being captured here to kind of do this stuff, including the watch loop and every other stuff. If you're not using watch loop, you'll not have all these things here. That's another one. I see this very ideal when something goes off and then you can come back and then start the overall flow and other stuff. This really helps you to do this stuff here, right? I think that's pretty much I have. As I told you earlier, obviously the repositories are shared alongside this video. Take a look at them, use them, and share your feedback as issues or comments or whatever you like to have. And collaborate. A PR is most welcome as well. Thank you so much.